Hello there, Facebook friends. Hello, hello. Welcome to the tall and the short of it this week. We are going to be bringing Betsy in here. I'm going to adjust my camera just a little bit. There we go. So, we're adding her on the camera. Hopefully she'll be popping on here any second. Hope everybody's had a great week. Trying to stay cool out there. I know there was a lot of rain yesterday. Hey, you're kind of frozen. There, now you're not frozen anymore. Can you hear me?
All right.
Hey,
Yep.
there you are.
Hey.
Hey. All right, well, I'm going to refresh
I'm in a different place today.
You what? Hey,
I said I'm in a
Jonna.
different place today. I didn't want to clean off my chair.
Yeah? Okay, well, I'm sharing us out to my page live right now so that
Okay.
people might jump on if they see us live. Ooh, wait. No, I don't want to do that. I want to go. Oh, it's not letting me. Hold on. Cancel. Share
And you have
to.
to remember, I can't see what people say.
Oh, it's not letting me share this to my personal page. That's weird. Yeah, John is on and Angel's on right now. Say hi.
Hey, guys.
Yeah. Yes, it's not letting me. That sucks. Oh, well. Maybe I could just share it afterwards then. Okay, well, we are here
There you
today. Huh? Oh, was I frozen?
I just said, there you go. No?
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I thought there was something wrong. Okay, so today.
No, I just said, there you go.
Okay. Today, am I on a delay for you?
Is there
maybe?
like
It must be.
You're not on a delay for me.
Okay.
I hear you when you're saying it.
Okay, because I'm not hearing you until I start talking again.
Oh.
That's weird. I don't know that that's ever happened to us before. Oh, well. So, hi, Patty.
It would not be one of our lives.
It wouldn't without technical difficulties.
We did.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, okay, Patty's watching now too. Hi, Patty.
Oh, hey, Patty.
So,
they all get to watch you geek out here in a minute.
So yeah, help us spread the word on this one by sharing it out if you can. That'd be great. We are going to debrief my Washington trip today because.
And guys, I haven't even asked her about it because I knew I had to. We were going to talk about it. I was like, I'm not listening to all this twice.
Exactly.
So I haven't.
She already gets my nerdy self far too often anyway. So I flew to Washington on Saturday, and
tell them why you went.
So yes,
why did you go
Saturday,
to Washington?
I flew out there because Sunday through Wednesday, the Council for Exceptional Children, which is CEC, and CASE, which is the Council for Administrators of Special Ed, has a joint legislative summit called the Special Education Legislative Summit, or CELS. So if you're on Twitter and
because we love our acronyms.
Don't we just love our acronyms? So if you are on Twitter and you want to check out like pictures and things that people live tweeted while we were there of all the different meetings for all the different states and all that, on Twitter, the hashtag CELS, SELS 2019 is one you could check out. And you'll see pictures and people meeting with their legislators and working on stuff. It's really cool. And we were actually trending on Twitter for about 20 minutes on Tuesday. Yeah, I know. Pretty big deal.
Wow.
So, hey, Nancy Duckworth.
Hey, Mama.
But so I flew out on Saturday, and then our conference started on Sunday. So basically Sunday and Monday we spent preparing to storm the hill, so they call it, on Tuesday. There were 200 189 people from 46 states that attended this year. It's the biggest one they've ever had. In fact, we outgrew our hotel that we were in last year in Alexandria, Virginia, so we had to go to Crystal City so that we could have a bigger hotel. But yeah, pretty cool. But we spent, like I said, Sunday and Monday poring over all the issues that we wanted to discuss with our legislators on the Hill. And prior to the trip, myself and our other governmental affairs person and the someone from CEC, the national CEC, that's like their Child Action Network person, her name's Tara. We actually had to set up all those appointments with our legislators. So we have 11 legislators that are federal, 2 senators, and the other 9 are House of Representatives. And so we set up appointments with all of them for Tuesday. And so basically we're just preparing to go talk to them. And when you go, you most of the time don't get to meet with the actual legislator themselves. You usually meet with their legislative assistant. But we did actually get to talk with both of our senators.
Oh, really?
Because they do a thing called the Hoosier Huddle every Tuesday. And it's in the morning. And basically anyone from Indiana that wants to come visit them, they have a room set out in the Dirksen Senate building. And they have refreshments there in the morning, and you can just come in and hang out. And then they come in and they talk to, they do, like, each of them does a little speech, and then they have their legislative aides bring over any of the groups that want to talk to them individually, one at a time. So that was pretty neat. We got our picture taken with them and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we made a joke while we were there, because it's funny, because you can always tell when the meeting's over, because they're like, do you guys need a picture? Do you guys? It's like, and I was like, I wonder if that would work in a case conference. Could we just be like, okay,
do you need a picture?
Is that like if the meeting's gone too long? No, I'm kidding. Yeah, it was our running joke that we thought it was funny that they all end their meeting with, you guys want to get a picture? Because they always want to have our picture out by the flag with their little name on it and everything. Yeah.
Okay, well, whatever works.
It's my new ending for every meeting I'm in from now on. Let's take a selfie. All right. So I literally, you guys do not want to hear me ramble on about all the issues we discussed and all the bills and all. And look at Betsy shaking her head. Yeah, she knows. So yeah, I picked 2.
Because I will.
So
hear
I
it all at
picked
some
2.
point.
That I want to discuss in a little more depth tonight. And then the other ones, I'll just like disseminate little bits of information on our page for those that are interested in those topics later. Okay. And of course, I'm happy to answer any questions you guys post on our page. So that's, you know, like I said, I'll go in as much depth as you want, because I totally geek out on this stuff. Okay. So the first one I want to talk about, and like I said, Betsy's going to jump in and ask questions as I kind of go through this, since she wasn't there, and that'll help clarify for all of you in case I go off on a nerd tangent. Okay, so so the first one I wanted to talk about is basically it's appropriations, and every group that goes to Washington asks for money, right? That's pretty much why you go, is we need funding for this, because pretty much nothing gets done without being funded. So in the special ed world, the federal legislation is IDEA. And for parents and people out there that don't know what IDEA is, that is the federal special education civil rights law that was passed in the 1970s, early 1970s, basically saying it's not okay for you to not let kids with disabilities go to school. Because before that, they used to either not let them attend at all, they'd kick them out, or they would like put them in little boiler rooms in the back of, you know, segregated away from everybody else, kind of like the dirty little secret of the school. But this law idea, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, it was called something different in the 70s, Education for All Handicapped Children Act back then. They've updated that now. But so IDEA is what we call it. And it basically says your child has a right to a free and appropriate public education, and that you have a right to have a voice in creating the plan for that public education, which is their IEP, the individual education plan. So that's what IDEA is. Now, it's been reauthorized several times coming forward. And the last time it was reauthorized at the federal level was just before 2008.
13.
I
thought.
Yeah.
Okay. Never mind. I'm thinking of Indiana.
No.
Never mind. Sorry.
Article 7 was redone in 2008. That's when, and then we had some updates from Medicaid. Yep,
11 and 13.
Exactly. Those were state. Those are the state ones. But the last time IDEA was reauthorized was just before 2000. I think it was 2006, 2007. And then our Article 7 got updated in 2008 to reflect those changes. It might have even been 2006. I think it was 2006 that the IDEA was. So it's been due to be reauthorized again for quite a while, but Congress hasn't got around to it. And I'm going to say this very diplomatically, and we're kind of okay with that at the moment until we have a different public Secretary of Education. So we just kind of want to leave things status quo until we have someone who's an educator in that role. Because right now there's nothing bad about IDEA right now. There are some things we'd love to tweak or like that, but no humongous changes. So, so IDEA is the bill that gives these kids the right to this education. However, the budget bill is what appropriates the money for it. So those are two different things. IDEA doesn't allow you, it says, we promise we're going to fund it at 40% of the excess cost of special ed. So here's the kicker for that. When they passed it, they believed that the federal government, because it's a civil rights law, should be responsible for 40% of the cost, and that the states should be responsible for the other 60%. And they did that was the promise that was made. However, then when it went through the appropriations process with the budget bill, it never got funded to that level. So right now, currently, we're sitting at 16%. So last year, when they appropriated money for IDEA, they only gave us 16%. 16, 16. The highest we ever had was like 21 or 22, and that was the year of the stimulus. If that kind of gives you an idea. Yeah.
I remember that year. That was a fun year for
so right now we're sitting at 16%, and we really would love to get to that promise of 40%. Now, why is that important, you say? Why does that matter? Well, it matters because special education costs a lot of money. It costs a lot of money. In fact, that piece of a school district's budget is humongous because everything costs more when you have to have a special chair or a special piece of equipment or adaptive this or special therapies and all of those kinds of things. So it just costs a lot of money. However, because it's a federal mandate, we have to provide it regardless of whether the government appropriated money for it. Okay, so I call IDEA a partially unfunded mandate. Okay, so you know how let me make this analogy. The dyslexia bill in Indiana is a completely unfunded mandate. They said we have to do the things in the dyslexia bill, but they gave us $0 to do it. So that's something we have to do with the money we already have. So that means we're going to have to make cuts in other areas to make sure that happens. With IDEA, it's a partially funded federal mandate, meaning they give us the 16% of the cost, but that other, up to the 40% has to be picked up by the state. So the state's going, hey, this is unfair. You said you were going to pay 40% and now you're not paying that, right? So what that means then is the state says, okay, we're going to go ahead and give you this much. So the state money that we get for special ed is what we get from our December 1 count. Okay, so federal dollars is one thing, state dollars is our December 1 count.
December 1 is when we count all of the students that have an IEP. that are a part of the special ed program, regardless of what that
Exactly.
IEP is for.
All
From
disabilities.
speech to any other type of
every December 1, we
disability.
count them, and whoever's enrolled in that school on that day, that's the money you get for the next year. So, so the states give us a certain amount, which is not even close to 80, to the, let me see, what would it be? 84%? Not even close to 84%. So the state is doing a partially unfunded mandate for special education. So where does that money come from? Because we have to do it. It comes from your general ed K-12 budget. So just so you know, the reason why music and art and libraries and some programs have gone away and some support staff have gone away and all of that kind of stuff is, as the costs go higher, we have to keep doing these mandates, either at the federal or state level. And the things that aren't mandated by law are the things that get cut. So if the government did keep its promise and fund that at 40%, in essence, what would happen is it would heal all the general funds in every state in the country. So I don't know if they really understand the impact of that. But what we did is we worked with some congressmen, our federal lobbyists worked with some congressmen to create what was called, and let me look up the right name for you here. It's called the IDEA Full Funding Act. Okay. And I'm going to put a link in the comments to a legislative action page that if you want to write your congressman to tell them to support the IDEA Full Funding Act, that you can get onto that page. All you have to do is put in your zip code, and then and hit that you want to write a letter, and it will bring up a sample letter with all the information in it already, and it will automatically send it to your legislators. So it literally take you about 5 minutes if you want to do it. So I will make sure I post that. But the Full Funding Act for IDEA, there's a Senate bill and a House bill. So I'll post both up there so you can see what they're called. Senator, let me see here, Senator Van Hollen from Maryland and Representative Huffman from California are the ones that sponsored it. They have over 100 co-sponsors in the House, some bipartisan too. There are some Republicans and some Democrats, mostly Democrats, but some. And then there is also about 8 or 9 co-sponsors in the Senate. But Indiana does not have any co-sponsors yet. So that was a big thing we talked to all 11 of them about, was signing on to co-sponsor the IDEA Full Funding Act. Now, it would be a really big deal for them to fund it at 40% all in 1 year, right? To go from 16 to 40, yeah, it's never going to happen. So what this bill does is it creates what they call a glide path to full funding. So over 10 years, it would go from the 16% net, well, actually it would bump it to like 18, I think, the first year. And it would bump it up just a little bit each year, all the way 10 years. And 10 years from now, they would be at the full funding of 40%. So that way they could, gradually get there instead of having to do it all at once. Obviously, we know they should do it all at once, but that would be a huge ask. So again, it's called the IDEA Full Funding Act, and I will make sure I post the link for that. So I kind of tried to explain to them too that as the number of special education students are increasing in our districts, they are. Every year, it seems, with the opioid crisis and with them saving more babies that were medically fragile or born too early, and things like that. We've got a lot of kids with some learning issues and a lot more trauma and things like that. As the kids increase and the money stays the same, that we are trying to do the same thing with a lot less money. And here's the thing, is the schools are going to provide the special education services. We have to, or we'll get sued. So like I said, the kids that hurt because the government doesn't fund it the way they said they were are your general ed kids, because they're going to have less options and less opportunity if we have to take money from them in order to support special education. Like I said, we all know and we want our special ed kids to have the best. We do. But we also want our general ed kids to have the best. And all kids are general ed kids first.
Right.
and what's good for all, that it's good for all kids to have that. So that's the first issue I wanted to talk about, is that we now have this full funding act, and I think that's a really big deal. We didn't have that last year. We just were going and asking for money, going, hey, you want to put this in the budget? That's issue number one. And then due to all these funding shortfalls, it's created another issue. And I know that you guys have heard all about it all over the news, and that is the teacher shortage. So, and
I'm going to tell you guys, Jenny and I did talk about this last night, and I knew there was a teacher shortage, but I did not grasp or I didn't know. When she started talking numbers, I was floored. I was really shocked.
I have a handout that I'll share, and I may even like take a screenshot of this and post a graphic so you guys can actually see the numbers. But the teacher shortage, so basically there are, let's see, special ed teachers are leaving the teaching profession at nearly twice the rate of general education teachers. That was a big one. So 12.3% of special ed teachers leave every year, leave the teaching profession completely. 51% of all school districts and 90% of high poverty districts report difficulty attracting qualified special ed teachers. 42 states report a shortage of early intervention providers, including special educators and related service providers. So that would mean like your preschool special ed teachers, your OTs, PTs, speech therapists, school psychologists, things like that. Blind, low vision, and deaf, hard of hearing teachers are a big thing too. And then enrollment in teacher preparation programs across the country has dropped by 35% over the last 5 years. In fact, I read a story on Facebook the other day that a girl went to watch her sister graduate at Purdue. And no, they were going to orientation. Sorry, we were going to orientation for Purdue. And she went with her, and all the kids that were the prospective students were sitting in the auditorium hearing the big speech. And then they raised the sign saying, okay, all the engineering majors follow that guy. So he raised his paddle, and, you know, they follow, all the engineering majors followed out. And then they raised it up for the veterinary sciences, and they followed him out. And then they raised it up for another group and another group. And then the lady who had the paddle that said education, not one person followed her out of the room. Yeah, wow. I was like, oh, that's horrible. And Purdue has a great teacher ed program.
Wow.
So yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, that's not good. So so that was one piece of statistics that I saw. And then here's the stuff that's the super shocking stuff. So when we can't find a qualified teacher to fill a spot, we have two options. You can either put a long-term sub in that room, and a sub really only has to have a high school diploma and have either passed the para-pro test, which is just basic English and math, or they can have 60 college credits in anything, okay? So basically a substitute license is all they need to be in that classroom. So we can put a long-term sub in the room till we find somebody, or we can put someone who has a teaching license in that classroom that's not special education and get them what's called an emergency permit. So what that means is in the first 4 weeks of school, you apply to the state to get an emergency permit. You have to have a teaching license though. You can have like a teaching license in PE or.
And I actually started special education with an emergency permit.
But the catch is you have to enroll in a teacher ed program for special education and complete at least 6 hours a year in order to keep your emergency permit until you get your licensure. So people on emergency permits are taking special education coursework, but they are not licensed special ed teachers. They are licensed teachers, but not licensed special ed teachers. So here are the stats, and this is from the 17-18 school year, okay? So in the 17-18 school year, and this is all licenses, not just special ed, okay? So if they couldn't find a science teacher, or they couldn't find a, whatever, okay? In the state of Indiana, there were 2,118 emergency permits applied for the first time. So that was the first time they'd ever applied for an emergency license. And there were 884 renewals for a total of 3,107 emergency permits in the state of Indiana. So we had over 3,000 teachers teaching coursework outside of their license area. Okay. Now let's talk special ed. Out of those 3,107 emergency licenses, 1,000 of those were special education teachers in the areas of mild interventions, intense interventions, blind, low vision, deaf, hard of hearing, and communication disorders. Okay. So 1/3 of all the emergency permits in Indiana were in special education. And that does not count all the classrooms that were just being filled by long-term subs, or the positions that were just not filled and they spread those kids out and made bigger caseloads for everybody else. So we have a severe teacher shortage in the state of Indiana. And here's the even crazier fact. We had more people apply for an emergency permit in special ed last year than we did have teachers renew their license. Like their actual special ed license.
Sorry, you're looking at my hand.
I can hear you, but
I can hear you, but I hear an echo of myself.
My thing's died.
Oh no!
I can hear you.
So,
Okay, no, I can hear you.
Betsy?
Can everybody else hear Betsy?
I think it's okay as long as you have yours.
Okay.
It's going to be weird because I'm going to hear an echo.
It's going to be weird because I'm going to hear an echo of myself.
Did it happen right when I took those out?
Yeah.
Okay. I have mine like that.
Keep going.
Keep going. I might go.
Keep going. See if you can find them.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll see if I can't find them.
Let me see here.
Okay, so
I'm looking at mild interventions.
So let me just do mild interventions. So in mild interventions,
791 people.
791 people renewed their special ed license.
703 people.
703 people applied for an emergency permit.
50-50.
So it's like 50-50.
Okay, intense is worse.
Okay, intense is worse.
50 teachers.
50 teachers
renewed their license.
140
applied for emergency
140 applied for emergency permits.
Blind, low vision.
1
teacher renewed
their license.
17 applied for emergency permits. Deaf, hard of hearing. Renewed their license.
15 renewed their license.
Applied
14
for emergency permits.
We renew our license at the least every 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Some people can get, it's called a professional license. It can go 10. But that's a whole nother story.
Right.
So we don't, I will renew mine next year. So that doesn't mean, that you're taking it out of a larger group. But
so Patty, it's echoing.
All right.
I'm going to Bets and come back in.
Pop out Bets and come back in.
Okay, I'll go find my things.
Okay, are you guys hearing me better now? I wondered if when her earbuds died that would happen. Somebody comment so I know. You guys hear it now better? Okay, is it still echoing, Patty, or is it fixed now that Betsy's off? It's fixed now? Okay. Okay, sorry. Okay, so do you guys need me to repeat something? Because I'm not sure what you heard because it was echoing. But the gist of everything is this, that we have way too many people on emergency teaching licenses because we're not putting out the the teacher prep programs cannot put out enough special educators to fill all the spots that we have. Same thing with school psychologists. Only 35 school psychologists graduated from college last year, and we have like hundreds of spots we could fill. So you love me, but one of me's enough. Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, Christy. So sorry, we had Betsy go try to find her headphones because we started echoing when her earbuds died. But, you know, we were talking about emergency permits and just how many teachers are on those, and it's bad. And here's what I fear. Another crazy stat that I heard while I was there in DC is that over the next 10 years, a third of teachers will be retiring. That's like super crazy in my book. So we have a problem coming up. And we have to work with our teacher ed programs. We have to work with our legislators to provide incentives. So one of the big things I think we can do, and Betsy, if you're watching, go ahead and request to jump back in if you find your headphones. One of the things we can do is there's supposed to be a new reauthorization for the Higher Education Act coming out, hopefully by the August recess at the federal level. And if that happens, I will let everyone know so that you can write to get your legislators to support that. But the Higher Education Act, basically, it provides for things like student loan forgiveness. It provides grants to the states to help students to enter those high need teaching areas. Hi, Jessica. It also, like, if they want to become administrators for district, special education directors, there's things that can be provided through the Higher Ed Act. Like I said, there's teach grant programs for doctoral students. There's, there's so many different things on here in this reauthorization of the Higher Ed Act that could be helpful in helping us fix the teacher shortage. But what we really need is for the student loan forgiveness piece to stay. And I think that's something that isn't supported widely across Congress in the Senate right now. So reaching out to your senators and saying we need to reauthorize the Higher Education Act and keep intact our student loan forgiveness programs and our teacher preparation grants. I think those are the two huge pieces that could really help us get on the way to helping with the teacher shortage. The other thing would be if they would fully fund IDEA. It's not giving you the choice to join. Okay, let me see if I can add you again. Okay, let's see if it'll let you now. But if they fully fund IDEA, then again, what that does is free up. There she is. She's back.
Yes.
Yay, no echo. I was just talking about, oh, you turned it.
I know because, okay, do I
You
look okay?
fine. You look fine.
All right, I'm just going to leave it.
Yeah.
I can't see anything or whatever, but it's fine. Okay, go ahead. I heard you talk about the loan forgiveness. Okay.
Yeah, so, but if they do fully fund IDEA, again, that heals our general funds, which allows us to pay teachers more. And hey, that might help the teacher shortage. So, but no, I think it's a state and a federal issue. Both the state and the federal government need to step up. Federal through the Higher Education Act, and then the state through just appropriating more money for teachers. I think that's a huge deal. So those were the two big issues that I really wanted to talk about today. What questions does anyone have?
Well, let me just say, because you've done this, how many years have you done this?
I think this is my 4th year going to Washington. Yep.
And what is like the most surprising thing?
The most surprising.
And not necessarily from this trip,
well,
maybe just in general.
I will say this. I wasn't sure. You guys know when Senator Donnelly lost last year and Senator Braun won the election for our second senator. We have Todd Young and we have Senator Mike Braun. So he's only been in Washington for 6 months. When he came to the Hoosier Huddle, he knew us right away because one of the ladies that's with us, Tammy, shout out to Tammy Herm, she lives in Southern Indiana and was in his district when he was a state legislator, and she met with him and talked to him frequently and built that relationship. So when he walked in the room and saw her, he was like, hey, Tammy, I know who you are. And he said, she kept me very well informed at the state level of what I needed to be doing for special education. And he was actually very kind and listened. And he said, I want to be able to help with this. I mean, he pledged that he asked if he could speak to our iCase group back in Indiana. He wanted to know how he could help. So that was huge because not all legislators are willing to pledge support right during the meeting. You know what I'm saying? Like most of them are very like tight-lipped about whether or not they would pledge support during the actual meeting with them.
And this, you don't normally always, like you had mentioned, you don't necessarily get to meet with them.
No.
It's usually you're talking. So that is something I feel like, I don't want to say, I don't know for sure that's like, I don't want to say it's the first time that's ever happened, but to the point, like that's something I don't remember you talking a lot about, I guess I'll say.
Right. And we did meet with Todd Young last year. He was there because he had the Hoosier Huddle thing last year. But like I said, he's a supporter. He says that he supports education, but he also believes that it's a state thing. And he feels like the state should be the one supporting education and not necessarily the federal government, which that's a conservative idea. I'm not going to say whether, that's good or bad or whatever, but my thought is it's a federal mandate, so I don't buy that logic. That's my argument. And that's what we said.
Okay, we're going on like,
I know.
A little over half hour. So let's do one more. Because I am constantly telling Jenny like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. This isn't, she's so much more up on what's going on, but she had mentioned at the beginning that they prepare you for this. So just talk a little bit about that.
The preparation.
So maybe, yes. Yeah. So that, because like I said, you're constantly telling me like, no, you be fine because, and explain that in case some other people do want to get involved.
Absolutely. There's lots of opportunities to go. I mean, if you're just out visiting Washington, you can actually call your legislator's office and ask to speak to their scheduler and say, hey, I'm going to be in Washington, D.C. on a sightseeing trip or whatever, and I'd love to stop by my legislator's office and meet him, get a picture, whatever. They'll get you on the schedule. They love that stuff. And all the staffers are very nice, and they want to meet with you. They want to hear from their constituents. Now, you wouldn't be able to get into an office where you're not a constituent. That's not going to usually happen. That's why we try to take as many people with us that are, if we want to get into all 11 offices, we need lots of people that live in their districts. But some of them are gracious and let us stop by and drop off materials regardless. But the preparation piece is huge. Basically, we have people from Council for Exceptional Children and from CASE, which is our Council for Administrative Special Ed, that research all these issues ahead of time. We get a booklet. So I'll hold mine up here. It's going to be backwards because I didn't do the flip thing. But I've stapled all the business cards from the different staffers I met with so I don't lose them to the cover. But you get a booklet that's all spiral bound for you. And it has a table of contents with all of the information we're going to talk about when they prepare us. And then you get, if you go in here, I said I was reading off of some of these as we were talking. You get a summary, and this is the page where you get all the legislative recommendations, and I made notes all over it. And then each issue has an issue brief. So this one is about education appropriations, and I highlighted the stuff I wanted to be sure to point out when we met with the legislators. So it's all here in writing for you, and you don't have to memorize the bill numbers or nothing. They're right there. And then here's one on keeping public funds in public ed. There's an issue brief on that. There's one on mental health. There's one on teacher shortage. But we spend about an hour on each issue going through and really discussing them in depth and letting people ask questions then for another half hour after that. So we have a speaker that talks about each one, maybe 1 to 2 speakers, and they give us lots of statistics and information. And then we have a half hour where people can just go up to the mic and ask questions. And so you get to learn a lot more during that piece, and everybody takes notes. And then after every 2 briefs, they give us team time. So we had 9 people at our Indiana delegation at our table. And so I think we did appropriations, and I think the second one we did was mental health. So we did those 2 things, and then they gave us a half an hour for our team to just talk about those things in more depth and what we'd like to talk to our legislators about, and to kind of get down like a little bullet points for when we have our meetings. And then we would talk about 2 more issues, an hour each, half hour each for questions, and we'd have team time. And they fed us and that kind of stuff so we could keep going. But we met from Sunday at 3 p.m. till we got done around 6:30. And then we had another reception later that night. And then in the morning, we started at 8 or 8:30, and we didn't get done until almost 7 o'clock at night. That was when we were let go to eat dinner. So, I mean, they just fill your brain full of so much stuff, but they give you that processing time in between all the people talking at you to process that with your team, which is just really good. And then and then we always pair up, like, since I've gone 4 times, I was one of the team leads this year. So we, and all 9 of us don't go to every single meeting. We'll split up. So we all go to the senators because it's a big Hoosier huddle thing. And then all of our representatives are through the rest of the day. So like we split into 2 groups. We had 4 and 5. And these went and did these meetings, and we went and did these meetings because they were different buildings. And then you have a lead person for each meeting. So I was the lead on Greg Pence because I'm his constituent. And when we go in the office, I say hello, and we give them each a business card because they want to know who's there. And you sit down and you meet with them at a table. And I was the one who went through all the issue briefs because I was the team lead. And then other people could jump in with comments and questions. But the people that are like the veterans that have done it a couple of years usually are the team leads. And then once you've been a year or 2, then you can be a team lead if you want to come back and do that. Although I had a lady who was with me, she was a first timer, and we got to her legislator's office, and she said, I want to do it. And I said, okay. So we just let her go, and she did great. So it's pretty awesome. Very cool. All right. I think I've like bored you with my nerdiness enough tonight, right? Next week, we have a treat for you. I don't know. Betsy, are you going to be on vacation?
Nope.
You're not going?
No, I'm donkey setting.
You're donkey setting.
Taking care of the donkeys and the dogs.
So it'll be up to Betsy whether she wants to join in with us. But I'm going to be driving to Indianapolis to interview Susan Ellsworth. She is with the National Organization for Fetal Alcohol Syndrome. Is that right? NOFAS, National Organization for Fetal Alcohol Syndrome. And we're going to be talking about her advocacy and what she does with that organization. So I'll be interviewing her all about that. Sounds like a good idea because that's an area that not a lot of people get training or professional development about. And I think it's really important. So we will be talking with Susan.
Yes.
All right. Well, that's it for the tall and the short of it. If you have questions about any of this legislative stuff, please post them because I will totally nerd out over answering your questions.
She will.
And I will.
She will. So
I will post those links for you to write about the Full Funding Act as well.
So join the conversation so I don't have to be the only one talking to her. But not that it's not interesting, but I don't know that I geek out over it. So
that's all right. We all have to be passionate about something, right?
Yes.
That's right.
Yep.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.